We see the big debut for Kane happen at an incredible pay per view in St. Louis. Unfortunately, it's the night after we lost Brian Pillman. In Your House, Bad Blood is a legendary show. First of all, because of the incredible cage match, the very first ever Hell in a Cell with The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I know it's not the most famous Hell in a Cell because Mick Foley didn't come flying off the top rope. But if you're going to watch one match from what we've been discussing today, make it this one. The main event of In Your House, Bad Blood, October 1997. What an incredible main event. But what do you know? Kane makes his debut. He comes down, rips the freaking door off the cage. And what a great memorable call from Vince McMahon here. That's gotta be Kane. Kane's wearing a red mask to hide the supposed scars on his face from the fire as a kid. Most of his body is covered as well to conceal those scars. But when Kane rips the door off its hinges and goes face to face with The Undertaker, he does what would become his trademark, setting the ring posts on fire, and then hits the tombstone on The Undertaker that costs him the match. I think you could argue this is one of the best introductions or debuts, if not the best introduction or debut in the history of not only the WWF, but professional wrestling. Like,
Wow.
we had heard about him, we hadn't seen him, but here he is. And he's not just in here somewhere in the show. It's the main event, the first Hell in a Cell between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, and he's the deciding factor. Talk about making a statement. This has got to be just one of the biggest moments, if not the biggest moment in his whole career. No,
That's the way you introduce somebody, Conrad. They
yeah,
make an impact and without a lot of gray area. Uh, I I was I didn't know what to expect from that match because we had never had one. But man, I was awestruck. Sean and Taker had the match of matches. It's one that if you haven't seen it, you're be well served to go back and watch it. I
yes.
mean that it's not just hyperbole. It was like I was so pleasantly surprised about how well that thing worked. It's worth going back and watching again. So yeah, it was just a great match. And then you add Kane's involvement. God, it just made it perfect. It just made it perfect. A great one, the all-time great introductions and presentations on any WWE pay-per-view.
An incredible moment, an incredible match, and The Undertaker is now sent into hiding for roughly the next 2 months. And Kane is just going to go on a huge warpath here. He's going to show up randomly on like every episode of Monday Night Raw and cause destruction everywhere he goes, whether it's with the Headbangers or Ahmed Johnson or the Hardy Boys. Kane leaves them all laying, and Paul Bearer is promising continued destruction until The Undertaker agrees to fight his brother. This is how you book somebody. Kane looks absolutely unstoppable. And boy, we are a long way from a wrestling dentist at this point.
You're damn right. And we finally found the persona that
Yes.
worked. It just you got to keep looking and not give up on the talent. And nobody was going to give up on Glenn Jacobs, that's for sure. And I think a lot of us are just excited for him because he was such a good guy. And he deserved the opportunity to be a success. And then, of course, then you turn it over to the talent, and how big a success can you be, uh, and how big a success do you want to be? Well, Glenn answered all those questions very quickly.
No doubt he did. And what's interesting is we're just showing him laying waste to dudes. We're not actually showing a lot of matches of his on TV. In fact, I think his first televised match is where he's going to wrestle. I guess I should back that up. Dude Love puts up the biggest fight against Kane, but ultimately he channels the darker side of his character, Mankind, to challenge Kane at a Survivor Series match in Montreal. And that's going to be Kane's first televised official match. Otherwise, he had just been beating dudes up. Now, of course, he had been working house shows along the way and things like that, as you might imagine. But um, holding back on letting a guy make his, you know, television wrestling debut, that's pretty awesome because it shows some real patience. can you speak to that? The patience of how, we're having him destroy people on TV, but we're not giving an official match, if you will.
Well, it was just a booking theory. It's
Yeah.
philosophy of booking. I liked it. I thought it worked out real well, and it was a matter of not force feeding Kane to the audience, and we didn't. It was very, very strategic booking in my view. So, and I thought it was done correctly. To be honest with you, it was just I couldn't have booked it in hindsight any better than it was booked. It was easy to get into. It was an easy story to tell. It's right on point, right on point. And then one reason for that was the fact that Undertaker had such ownership of that angle, of that storyline. So a lot of Taker's fingerprints, shall we say, were all over that storyline. He had a invested interest in it. He knew where it was going. He knew what he needed to do to make it happen, and he did everything he needed to do. Undertaker was very, very the word I'm looking for. He had the ability to share,
Yeah.
and all that. For a lot of top talents would not give that much of themselves because they were insecure. Taker was not insecure, and he knew that Glenn was the keeper of this deal. Glenn's going to make this thing all work because it's all going to come together in this wonderful story, and which it did.
Yeah. It really is incredible, especially when you consider that working as this Kane character, he only had 2 regular quote unquote matches before this pay-per-view debut. He's going to wrestle Vader once in Rochester, once in Binghamton, New Jersey, and then he's ready for the pay-per-view. And almost immediately after the pay-per-view, he gets to make his Madison Square Garden debut, and then right behind that, his Greensboro Coliseum debut as this character. Of course, those are the home of WrestleMania and the home of Starrcade, and him being such a student of the game, those had to be big opportunities, but it doesn't get much bigger than a featured match on a big pay-per-view. And unfortunately, nobody talks about the 1997 Survivor Series for the Kane match. We all talk about the famed, or I guess infamous, Montreal Screwjob. But what was interesting is to go back and watch this match, and I would encourage people, if you're wanting to go down the Kane rabbit hole, fire up your Peacock, watch Survivor Series 97, where he wrestles Mankind. So we've got 2 monsters against each other, but we try something a little different. They're going to wrestle the match in this dark red lighting shining over the ring. And you were at least trying something here that I thought was pretty cool. What do you think of the effect of, we're going to have him wrestle and you'll be able to see, but it won't look like all the other matches. It'll be with this dark red tint.
Well, it's going to be different. And how well would it be received? I didn't know. It was different. It was new. Always willing to try something different and new. No doubt about that. I think I've said here a zillion times, wrestling fans like new, and this was new. And if anybody could pull it off, it was Mick. Mick and Glenn were buddies, and Mick was a team guy without a question. So I was willing to give it a shot. Hey, we've been right on the money thus far. What reason would we have to think that it wasn't going to work?